And I said, I'll just enter a show, go and have a go. So about 6 weeks later, did my first show, eventually won the British Masters Men's Physique, won the Arnold Classic UK.
What did that feel like when you won your IFBB Pro card?
I can't even describe it. I can't even describe it.
Hello, carnivores, and welcome to session number 62 of the #1 bodybuilding podcast in the United Kingdom. I am your host, Coach Colt. Rob Thurston is our featured guest this week. He is an IFBB professional bodybuilder from Colville, UK. He's also the sales director at what very well may be my favorite fitness manufacturer of all time, which is Hoist Fitness. So we're going to talk all about becoming a professional bodybuilder, what business opportunities that implies for those of us just crazy enough to do it, and if you're a gym owner or building a home gym, why you should consider some of their fine equipment. I've used probably just about everything in their catalog throughout my years of competing, up through my last workout yesterday, where my training partner and I hit up as many Hoist machines as we could possibly find, and so it would be fresh in our heads for this talk. Technology, their biomechanics, from the little of what I know, is truly unique and revolutionary, though I know little about it. So I'm thrilled to be speaking with Mr. Thurston today, and I'm wearing my learning hat. We are going to jump right into the meat, but before we do, here is our Spotify podcast review of the week. It is from Sam Marston. Says, subscribed! Exclamation point. Love your show. Awesome. That's in response to session number 61, which is last week. The Untold Truth About Fiber. Until now, with Sarah Lawrence. Cheers to that, Sam. Thanks for subscribing, and thanks a lot for the kind words. Mr. Thurston, welcome to Carnivore Coach's Corner. How you been since we last talked, my man? What muscle groups did you train today?
That's the important question. Well, it was a shoulder session today, so yeah, we did delts today, myself and my training partner.
How long until your next competition?
So I'm actually 3 weeks out today, so suffering a little now. In the 3 weeks, I'm going to be out in Chicago competing out at the Chicago Pro in the Masters.
Fantastic. What does a typical workout look like for you right now, man?
Okay, so I'm pretty old school, right? I live following what's derogatory called a bro split, right? That I like to refer to as a pro split. I train a body part a day, 5 days per week. So I have a chest day, a back day, a leg day, a shoulder day, and an arm day. 2 days off, split throughout the week, and I'll smash that body part for an hour and give it a full week recovery to rest. You know, I kind of grew up with all those guys through the 90s watching Blood and Guts, Dorian Yates, and, you know, I look back at all those top bodybuilders through the years, from Phil Heath to Branch Warren to Dorian to Jay, and those guys trained that way, right? I didn't see those guys doing the current fashion of the push-pull legs day. You know, I love it when the kids come into my gym and say, you know, what are you training today? And they like push. I'm like, chest, shoulders, and triceps, you mean? So I like an old school bro split. Go in, hit a body part hard, lots of angles, lots of rep ranges, lots of different training techniques, and then give my entire system that week's rest. Because, you know, it's not just that muscle recovering, right, during that time, your whole central nervous system, but particularly as you get a little older as well, the soft tissues as well, your joints, the tendons also need recovery. So, you know, so maybe my pecs have recovered or my delts have recovered in 2 days or 3 days, but also that joint tissue, those soft tissues also need to recover before I can go and hit them hard again. So yeah, 5 day split, one body part a day, plenty of sets, plenty of volume.
Wow, even this far out from a show, huh? And so you're training like less. I guess most competitors that I know tend to do like more full body workouts as they get closer to the show, but you're still sticking to pretty much just one muscle group a day, though, huh?
Yeah, I mean, very much like you know, the Dorian Yates or Branch Warren or Phil or Jay, those same style workouts. I don't change my workouts at all as I go in towards a show, with a few exceptions. So what built the muscle there is what's going to hold the muscle as you get closer to the show. I don't want to reduce things down. The only change is some of the set extenders. So I may be doing things like less triple drop sets, some of the stuff that creates a lot of fatigue as I'm getting further into the hole. So later stages right now, for example, on my military press, I might be finishing normally with a triple drop set on my last set. I won't be doing that this week or next week or the week after, not digging the hole quite so deep because I'm glycogen depleted and so on. But other than that, I'm lifting virtually the same pounds as I do in my off season right now. I'm doing the same set volume. The only things that change are modifications to my diet as I come down and modifications to my cardio, just turning that screw either way as my body fat comes down.
Wow, I love it. You're talking about triple drop sets and stuff, and shock principles, and so you're really speaking my language there. My thing lately has been ascending reps. I'm not sure if it's a technique that you're familiar with, but I'm always I'm just like you. I'm training for hypertrophy, right? And so strength is important, but I'm mostly concerned about hypertrophy as a bodybuilder, and so I'm always looking for ways to think outside the box and make my muscles do something different than just the normal sets and reps that got me to where I'm at. And so ascending reps is kind of the same idea. Basically, it's a unilateral exercise. You pick any unilateral exercise. You do 2 reps on one arm, 2 reps on the other arm. 4, 4, 6, 6, 8, 8, 10, 10, and that adds up to 30 reps on each side. So I'm just kind of wondering if you have any tricks like that, anything that you do that's outside of just adding more volume to progress once you've hit a plateau.
No, and certainly I agree with that. When we're talking about muscle hypertrophy, right? So, I had some background in powerlifting. I currently hold a master's British bench press record in my weight class. And I've done that heavy training stuff before. But in terms of growing pecs and getting that balanced development through upper lower chest and all of those things and staying injury free, some of the things I'll utilize in there will be for body parts that. For larger body parts, I'll typically have an isolation movement in first. So not done as a pre-exhaust superset, but as a pre-exhaust. So for example, in chest, I'll use a cable pec fly as my first movement, moderate rep range for 3 or 4 sets, so that I've probably got my chest engaged at my muscle connection with that muscle before I get into the heavier lifts. And it typically means I'm 10 minutes into the workout before I start doing my heavy presses. On a leg day, I'll be doing leg extensions before I get into my squats and leg presses, which is quite typical, right? A lot of people do that. On my back day, I'll use a Nautilus pullover before I go into my back work, isolation lat movement. On shoulder day, I'll do lateral raises before I do my military presses. So most typically on those larger body parts, I'm doing an isolation movement for 3 or 4 sets before getting into the heavier movement. I found that a good way to stay injury free, a good way to activate that muscle tissue rather than getting into, for example, heavy presses today first. I want those side delts, some blood in there, those muscles activated. And it also then starts to limit a little bit how much load I'm going to use on the heavy pressing movements because I'm slightly pre-exhausted, which as I've got older, less stress on my soft tissues, my joints and so on. So that's one of the things. In terms of set extenders, 2 things I use predominantly. I train with a training partner all of the time. A finale who also completes powerlifting and men's physique, and a similar body weight to myself, will typically either do some force reps on the last set only, so 2 or 3 force reps, using very slow negatives during those reps. So again, my last set of military presses, as he assists me just enough with the sticking point, I'll then lower that weight in about 5 seconds. We'll do it again, and maybe one more on that last set only. Except at this point in competition prep into this last 3 or 4 weeks where I'll drop those extended sets. On some other movements that lend themselves less well to force reps just because of your partner position or the exercise, I will do something like a triple drop set. So that might be something like, I know, an incline dumbbell curl, my last set of those. I'll hit 8 to 10 reps, drop the weight 20%, straight into another 8 to 10 till failure, drop the weight 20%, straight into another set. So typically my last set of an exercise most of the year, with the exception of the last 3 or 4 weeks pre-show, the last set will have some type of set extender, for either drop set, triple drop set, or force reps to take it past failure.
Wow, I love it. Yeah, that's not too similar than excuse me, not too different than how I'm training at the moment, I don't think, man. So my workout yesterday was at Yellowstone Fitness with Ledouar. He's my training partner at the moment. And we tried to make it a point to hit as many hoisted machines as we could. So we did arms, we did triceps, biceps, and calves. Started with single arm cable press downs with a reverse grip for the lateral head of the deltoids, or excuse me, lateral head of the triceps. for the horseshoe shape, and then our primary compound lift was actually weighted dips. So after we already
Yeah,
got
yeah.
3 sets
I'm a huge fan of those weighted dips.
of getting some good isolation, some blood flow.
And you know the other thing, I'm a huge fan of doing those arm workouts, those arm days, bicep tricep day. You know, you listen to guys like John Meadows, tons of good pros who've got great arms, from Rolly Winkler to Jay Cutler. Those guys did arm days, and you know, on a current fashion of doing a push or pull day, if I've done a back workout, trying to do justice to a bicep workout mentally and physically, it's not happening. I'm not giving it 110% in my biceps after doing 15 sets of back work, or after doing chest and shoulders. Then trying to do triceps doesn't work for me. So arm days all day long, put that 100% focus into that muscle group. I think it's a great way to go, and keeping those big compounds in, right? So having a heavy dip, having a barbell curl or easy bar curl, something that's got some heavy eccentric movement in, you know, along with those isolated cable movements, a mixture and a blend, which is, I guess, what the bodybuilding is all about, of heavy compounds and isolation movements.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Do you like to put all of your compound lifts kind of back to back, or do you ever do like sometimes I feel like my central nervous system is kind of fried after doing something like dips, and so then usually we'll do something lower intensity after that, and then come back and hit a compound exercise like later.
Yeah, no, not too bad. I'll maybe take a little bit longer rests on them, but on something like a tricep workout, I'll typically have a shortened range movement first. So something like a rope press down, where there's tension in the fully shortened position, and then I'll hit some compounds. So it might be close grip bench press and weighted dips, and then I'll typically finish with something in the stretch position as my last exercise, where the muscle, so like an overhead rope extension or overhead dumbbell extension, when the muscle is stretched. So in a leg workout, that might mean starting in shortened range with a leg extension, heavy
I
compounds.
love it. So I think okay. So here's a triceps exercises that I picked, and here's the tricep exercises that I picked, and I want to explain to you why. But basically, yeah, that first cable press down is for the pump, right? And then I got my compound lift, which is so we hit dips immediately after that,
Yeah,
and then we did hoist chest presses with a close grip, but
yeah,
really for the
perfect. Yeah,
triceps. And then you were talking about sort of the stretch exercise. That's when you want to do something like over your head for your long head, right? So
yeah,
that's when
yeah,
I
yeah.
actually hit the hoist press machine. Both of us did right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
good
So
stuff.
that would be absolutely perfect. You've done shortened range activation, got your elbows warmed up, hit a couple of compounds with dips and presses, and then done something in the stretch position when the muscle's fully pumped, but your tendons, joints are a little more vulnerable in that stretch. So I think that's a great way of doing your tricep workout, ordering of exercises, and a safe way as well. You know, in terms of longevity for your elbow health, that's a good way of doing it.
Thanks. Well, and I mean, man, that's a great segue into hoist right there too. That's something that I've noticed about every single machine is it's fun, dude. It's like it kind of feels like you're on a circus ride in a good way, in a not a scary way. But like the machine moves with you though, and it just feels more
Mm.
natural, man. My joints do not feel as good as they did 7 or 8 years ago before I started bodybuilding and before I turned 32 3 days ago. I'm still trying to absorb that. 32, man. How old are you? You're 52 though, right?
I'm 52. Yeah, you're just the youngster, man. This, yeah, 52.
Wow. I wanted to talk to you more about that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so is that kind of like the main point of like everything hoist related? That's kind of what
Yeah.
I've
So
noticed is that
I'll give you a
every
bit of
gym that I've been
background
at,
with.
anything that says hoist on it, the machine just feels awesome.
Yeah, so I'll give you a bit of background kind of around hoist and biomechanics side of things. You know, if we went back 20
Yeah.
years, there was a whole thing of free weights are better than machines, right? But what it really meant
Hmm.
was free weights were better than bad machines, because poor machines can do a lot of damage in terms of forcing you into an incorrect position for your body, poor resistance profiles, which I'll talk about in a minute, and a lack of individualization for taller, shorter, wider, narrower, stronger, weaker users, and so on. But as machine technology developed, especially over these last few years, and the understanding with biomechanics has improved considerably, then machines have started to outweigh free weights in a lot of instances. Not always, because those anomalies of body size and so on, but as an example, not everybody is going to squat well, depending on ankle mobility, femur length, torso length. But if I went back a little
For
further,
sure.
right? So my background prior to working in Hoist, I worked in the fitness industry my whole life. Right, I started working in a gym when I was 16 years old. I've worked as a PT, a gym manager, a sales rep for varying different fitness equipment companies. And prior to Hoist, I was the sales director for Cybex gym equipment for 12 years. So I ran the UK operation, and Cybex was well known as having some of the best biomechanics in the industry, and some of the making some of the best equipment. Unfortunately, Cybex is no longer here anymore. The company is now closed down. Was bought by Life Fitness, and they shut it down as kind of their main rival, which kind of led into the Hoist thing. But during my tenure at Cybex, all of our sales teams there were put through extensive biomechanics training, because we didn't want the sales guys to say, "Hey, our machines have got great biomechanics," and not even know what that meant. You'll hear people throw that term around, and they won't understand what an axis of rotation, a moment arm, torque force, line of force, resistance profiles, or any of those things mean. And they'll say, "Hey, machine's got great biomechanics," and you say, "Explain that to me," and they will not be able to explain why that machine is a good or a bad machine. As an example to that, let's take a leg extension. Right, on a leg extension, the resistance profile, when your muscles in a fully shortened range, your leg is straight, you're weaker than when you're mid-range, 90 degrees. You've got more strength there. The cam that you'll see on the side for the stack will change that resistance profile, and if it's been designed correctly, that movement will actually get slightly lighter as the leg gets fully extended. It means there's less load. So if there's 100 pounds on the stack, that isn't 100 pounds all the way through. That load is getting lighter because of the action of the cam, reducing the torque force on the moment arm, and it may be only 80 pounds at the end of the movement, right? If it's been designed well. Now, if that machine, I won't mention any of the manufacturers, but some of the manufacturers out there, that cam is incorrect or non-existent. So that may be 100 pounds all the way through. So when you're weakest and you've got knee shear at the top, it's giving you an even increased load. It's giving you more load where you're weakest and less load where you're strongest, which is totally incorrect. You want that bell curve to match. So you want the resistance profile of the machine and your individual strength profile to marry up with each other, and that's the sign of a good machine. Cybex did that very well. Nautilus back in the day, Arthur Jones did that very well with things like the pullover machines and so on, understood that process. And now the technology in plate load equipment, although it doesn't have a cam, uses that change in resistance profile by changing the moment arm length to match the body's strength profile. Gives you more load where you're weaker, give you more load where you're stronger, less load when you're weaker. Right. So rolling back to Hoist times, how that came about during. So the gym I have now is actually the ex-Cybex showroom. When Cybex got bought out, I've been there for 12 years. I decided to move on and take this facility with my wife. We opened it as a commercial gym, so it's full of Cybex and hammer strength equipment. Opened that as a commercial facility. Fast forward to lockdown, and I was, we were shut for nearly 2 years in the UK, so it was pretty horrendous. I started having a look at some alternate parts of business and being set up ready for when the lockdown finished. And with one of my ex-colleagues from Cybex, who set up the Hoist UK distribution, spoke to Billy out in San Diego. So Hoist based out in San Diego, their huge head office there. We set up exclusive UK distribution, and then used all our network background in terms of service, biomechanics, all of those gym installations, gym design that we'd learned over that previous time with Cybex, and applied it to bringing Hoist across here. And Hoist didn't really exist in the UK until a couple of years ago. So there was no wholesale distribution. Nobody understood it, didn't understand the biomechanics. Every time I would go and train out in the US, I remember being out at Gold's Gym at Venice Beach at 4:00 one morning, seeing Arnold training on the Hoist LAT pull-down. And I'd never seen that machine before. I was going, "Oh, what's that funky machine that's kind of rocking back as you're doing it?" And they went, "Hang on a minute, that's Arnold on there." And then I was training with Zach, my coach at the time, and he's doing a little video recording of this. And then the training partner / bodyguard with Arnold are kind of going, "Stop filming." But that was my first experience of Hoist, and then we went and had a play on the machine. But as I went out to go and look at all the equipment, they have a very extensive showroom in San Diego. I went out there and went through every piece of equipment with a fine-tooth comb, looking at say the kneeling hamstring curl, how it has less load at the start, more load mid-range, and then drops off as you get into the short and contracted range. If you use a lot of plate load standing hamstring curls, you find they're too hard at the top. You can't get all the way up and fully contract your hamstring because the load is out at 90 degrees where it should be getting in closer to the axis, reducing the load, getting this kind of bell-shaped resistance profile. So even if you've got a 20-kilo plate on there, if you were to get a luggage scale, you know what you weigh your suitcase with, and pull it at the start of the movement, pull it mid-range and pull it at the end, you'll see that 20 kilos is not 20 kilos. It's 5 kilos, then it's 20, then it's 5 kilos again. So resistance profile, strength profiles is a key thing. So that's one important part, right? Having the right biomechanics to match the body's natural strength profile. The other really important part is alignment. So if people say, oh, it's kind of like getting on a circus ride, this lat pull down because it's rocking back. But what that's really doing is helping with alignment. So you see a traditional lat pull down and you're pulling that bar down to the front. You'll see most people will have to do that lean back and lift their chest up to engage their lats. But that machine naturally makes you do that instead of arching your lower back, because I don't want to be pulling down at this angle. I want that pull to be in line with the lats that I'm working. I want the line of force to match my forearm direction. So as it rocks back, that action of pull, the rocking back seat action perfectly aligns the force in line with my forearm across my lats as they wrap around into the back. So that rocking movement is to help engage more muscles and get correct joint alignment. If you've tried the ROC-IT pec fly, which is a phenomenal machine, you're in that pec fly, as it rocks back, you rock into that decline position. You can see as I'm doing that lower line of the chest, the pec contraction is phenomenal in there, with a lot less shoulder impingement than I will get higher up here. So there's an alignment part of it, aligning your body so you've got minimal stress on the joint with maximal tension on the muscle. That's it in a nutshell, right? Try and match the resistance profile.
That's the entire point of bodybuilding, bro. That's the entire point of hypertrophy training. You want to put as much. I tell this to everybody in the gym, like everybody in this gym here locally, when they ask me how I train, I'm like, my entire goal is to do as much damage to the muscles and as little damage to the joints as possible. And it sounds like that's kind of the point of every single machine that you guys have, right?
Yeah, and there's some other manufacturers who are doing that extremely well, and across all the ranges, right? Everybody's got some really good pieces and some not so good pieces, and you'll see personal preferences between those as well. So if you go and take a 6'5" user and a 5'1" user, they'll often get different experiences on different makes of machines. So the big guys can often get on very well with hammer strength machines, but the smaller girls often don't. So, it kind of feels like it's been made for big football players, American football players. And I put a 5'1", 110-pound female on it, and they often don't get on as well. Grips are too wide, things are too far back, and so on. But phenomenal machines. I go and put my 6 foot 230-pound bodybuilder on that incline chest press, and it's perfect for them, right? You not everything fits everybody perfectly, and there's individual body proportions as well. Somebody working on a what can feel like a great squat machine, but somebody with poor ankle mobility, long femurs, short torso will squat very differently or leg press very differently than somebody who's got a long torso and short femurs and good ankle mobility. So the latter is a Tom Platz, right? Squats, boom, up and down like this. But you go and take a short torso, long femur, you look like you're doing good mornings when you squat. And then couple that with poor ankle flexibility, you can maybe modify that squat and go wider and turn your toes out. And those same things apply to machines, right? If the angle of the foot plate is at a certain angle on a hack squat, you'll find somebody with poor ankle mobility or very long femurs, their heels are going to lift when they drop into the bottom of that hack squat. So either adjustments on the machines to change angles and positions, rocking movement patterns that help you stay in position. It's difficult for machine manufacturers to put too many adjustments on because they can become overly complicated then for a beginner to go and use it. If you've got 17 different adjustments getting on a machine, it's going to be a mess. You really don't want more than 2 or maximum 3 adjustments to get yourself set up, seat height, arm alignment, width, or whatever. But in general, the Hoist equipment, and in particular that ROC-IT range, has got some very cool features that answer that question about maximum load on the muscle, minimal stress on the joint, and good congruent joint action, and also a good matching resistance profile. As and again, a good example, the iconic lat pull down, which is probably the most famous piece in the hoist range. In a pulling movement, I'm strong here at the start. If I was doing chin-ups, I could do the first 6 inches all day long with loads of weight around my waist. But to get into the fully shortened range, I'm a lot weaker here, right? Which is why you'll always fail as you're trying to get your chin near the bar. That lat pull down, as the if I've got my axis of rotation where my watch is, the weight where my fingers are, as that weight gets closer to the axis, the moment arm shortens, the load reduces. So as I rock back and the weight arm comes up, if I was put the luggage scale on it again, that weight might be 100 pounds, 80 pounds, 70 pounds. So as I'm getting weaker, the load is reducing because of the action of the arm is set at the correct angle. So resistance profile set up very well, the majority of the machines, hence the reason I'm a big fan of it. But it also needs that education, right? When I'm speaking to customers about it, to have some level of biomechanics knowledge and training knowledge, right? So to go understand what muscles I'm working and why in a bodybuilding context, to be able to explain that machine. But yeah, all about that biomechanics.
Wow. So it sounds like you're kind of accomplishing the same thing in a lot of ways as you would with like putting putting chains on a barbell or like bands on a barbell. For example, when I do any compound lifts, man, any compound lifts, especially on the rare occasions where I do like a barbell squat or a deadlift or a barbell bench press. I really don't do those exercises at all. I try to stick with exercises to where I can really hit, like go past concentric failures. So like dumbbell presses, machine presses, whatever. But the chains, like I'll even put them on my isolateral shoulder press and chest machine at home. And it makes the exercise safer where my rotator cuffs are the most vulnerable, but it gives me more muscle activation where I want it. And it recruits more stabilizing muscles too.
So
I don't know if that's kind of what you guys are accomplishing.
Yeah, so the chain or the band, championed by Louis Simmons of Westside Barbell, the famous powerlifting coach, changing that resistance profile. He was reading lots of Russian strength training texts and kind of discovered the chains and bands, chains particularly, and then he developed a lot of the band work, which was even more efficient. So what that's doing, it works well on joint extension pressing movements. So if you use it on a shoulder press, a chest press, a military press, a squat, a deadlift, where you're extending the joints, where you wouldn't want to use it is on something like a barbell row. Now, if you put chains on a barbell row, you'd be accomplishing completely the wrong thing. As you get to the shortened range, you'll be increasing the load when you're weaker. But on a deadlift, you're getting stronger and stronger as you get to the top. So having like those deadlift platforms that have the bands on will be perfect. And a shoulder press, less load here, more load as I get into the extended position. Great way of doing it. Because what's happening, of course, it's picking up more links of the chain. So the load is increasing as more links come off the floor. You're changing the resistance profile. Or as the band stretches, it's increasing its loading more and more and more. You're increasing the loading as that movement progresses. So you wouldn't want it to use it on a band or so somebody putting a band on a chest supported T-bar row would make no sense.
Yeah,
and putting on a hat,
absolutely.
Putting on a hat, and you can actually do it both ways
round.
And
just as a, I was gonna say, man, just as a cherry on top, it makes you stronger too. It totally makes you stronger because all those chains, they make a lot of fucking noise, and suddenly the whole gym's looking at you, and if the whole gym's looking at you, you can lift more weight. I promise you.
It's definitely anabolic. Absolutely.
Good stuff, man. That calf, or excuse me, the pull down machine that you're talking about, it has like 5 or 6 different grips on it, right? If I'm talking, if we're talking about the same one, and it rocks you back. Yeah, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that too. What I've been telling Ladoir every day this week, like as we've been training back, that that there's a lot of exercises where you don't really need perfect picture perfect form on some of these exercises, like a lat pull down and a cable row. I mean, when you watch the movie Pumping Iron and you see Arnold Schwarzenegger's technique and how he's actually doing it, I mean, he's using every single back muscle, man. He's rounding his lower back. He's using spinal erectors. He's using lats. He's using his entire body for that exercise. And actually, Jeff Nippard, he's somebody that I like to follow for like scientific articles and in terms of like how certain exercises affect different muscles differently. But He was, but he was citing some studies showing that actually helps to increase that actually helps to increase muscle stimulation for that
Yeah, I mean,
exercise, specifically
you have
for
a
the
you have a
lats
look
when
at
you swing like that.
yeah, I mean, you have a look
And
at
when you do a pull down, same thing, kind of like lean into it.
yeah, there's kind of a risk to benefit ratio. You know, you watch some guys like Branch and Jay, they'll use a bit of body English as well during the movements, and then you'll see some other guys, some of the new guys like Justin Shire, who do absolutely Hunter Labada, who are doing absolutely picture perfect form, and I think it's like on a journey there. You've got lots of different options of the route that you take that will still get you there. And there's some benefits to
Yeah.
using a little bit looser form, because what you're doing is changing the resistance profile a little bit by where the exercise is hard, using a little momentum or a little bit of change in body position. Same way the hoist machine does it to make the exercise easy to get through that. But you could equally be doing that with if you've got a training partner. So on a chin up, for example, you don't have a cam, you don't have a resistance profile, and you're weaker at the top. When you start to fail, what does your training partner do? He goes under your lats and just helps you the top 6 inches get into the movement. He is now your cam. He's changing the resistance profile for you. On the hamstring curl, that last couple of inches, your training partner is the human cam. Watch Charles Glass training anybody. Right? I went and trained out with him, did some PTs out with him out in Venice Beach. Watch him in the later reps on a lateral raise. He's got his hands underneath, just helping you get to that top range. What he's doing is smoothing out the resistance profile instead of the lat raise being super hard at the top and no resistance at the bottom. So, we don't have to do a line cuff lateral. Your training partner can just take a little tension out at the top to ease out the resistance profile. So your training partner can become the human cam.
Wow. Wow, that's fantastic. That's something else that was really fun about yesterday's workout too, man, is that because we just made a point to hit more of the hoist machines than normal. And normally I'm spotting him on everything and he's spotting me on everything, right? So when
Yeah,
we were
and
doing oh yeah, we call this the oh shit bar, the oh shit lever. There's a lever at the bottom that's like for assisted. So like if you can't, like on the chest press, for example, if you can't get
yeah, the foot pedal,
that last rep
yeah,
out,
yeah,
yeah, you
yeah.
seriously just step on that pedal and then it helps you assist. So when he and I were doing that exercise, what we did was we did our 3 normal sets, or excuse me, we did our first 2 normal sets, and then our third set, we always try to go hard and like do something to push past failure. So like we'll either do a drop set, which that's another thing your guys' machines for, is like, man, the way that the pin pops out of the weight stack and like how fast you can put it back in to the next one so that you don't lose blood flow if you're doing like a drop set on leg extensions. That's something else that's super helpful about it, because I don't see that with hammer strength and I don't see that with a lot of these other manufacturers. But the oh shit lever, yeah. So we would step on that like three or 5 times after we got our 10 to 12 reps,
So
and then
you're becoming
get
your
like
self spotter.
three or four more reps.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
you're still getting that blood flow and you're still pushing your muscle past
And
failure,
there's an
and
art to spotting.
your joints are fine, man. It's just a
And
brilliant machine. Go ahead.
there's an art to spotting as well. So you're only in doing it in that part of the lift that you start to fail, maybe about 25% of the 25% of the lift. Because bear in mind, you're strong. You're about 40% stronger in the eccentric when you're lowering the weight. So you don't need the foot on the bar. You can lower that still even after failure. But there'll just be a point in the movement where you get weaker and you can't complete the rep. You need just maybe taking 5 or 10 pounds of force off, whether it's the training partner on the oh shit bar, just to get you past that point. Then you release it, so you do the eccentric on your own. There's a great video that a hypertrophy coach Joe Bennett put out, analysing Dorian doing with his training partner Leroy Davis doing the Nautilus pullover, and he watches as he approaches failure how Leroy spots him on it, and you'll see the first rep as he does the pullover, he spots him only the last bit here, just a touch, finish the rep. The next rep he starts to fail here, and he just does a touch, releases, and then the last rep he fails about here, and he takes him all the way through and he finishes that. So each of the spotting reps, the first one was here, the next one was here, the next one was here, as he failed earlier and earlier in the rep as he created a deeper level of fatigue. That was good spotting. He used just enough, just at the right point, not on the eccentric, the lowering, to perfectly match that resistance profile. That's a great spotter, and that really increased the intensity of set. Not just go and do 2 more, and the training partner's doing all the weight, right? He's upright rowing your bench press off you. That becomes the pointless. All they do is they take it past the sticking point, release it, take it past the sticking point, and that sticking point will get lower and lower each of those couple of reps. But yeah, great way of, all of these things are all related, right? They're ways of making the exercise more efficient. And if your exercise is more efficient, you don't have to do as much volume. It's because you're creating more fatigue with less. And that means less stress, less reps, less amount of work on your body, central nervous system fatigue, joint inflammation, all of those things. If you can make your exercises less on those, not just stress on the joint, but stress in your central nervous system, total volume, don't dig the hole too deep, important part of it.
Definitely. It also, you have freedom with your form, but it also kind of locks you into a form, into a specific form too. So like, here's what I'm trying to say. So like dumbbell curls, for example, right? You go up to the dumbbell rack, you pick up a pair of dumbbells. Are you using the same form every time? You're an IFBB Pro. I would be surprised if you did, because I don't, and I don't know a lot of people that do. Like, everybody's form looks a little bit different every time. Okay, now you go sit in the Hoist seated bicep curl machine. I know that. What did I do yesterday? I write this all down. I did 185 pounds, 185 pounds for 8 reps. Like, for me, that's as much as I can do. I can't get a 9th rep, right? So I know that next time I go hit that machine, if I get 8 reps, my arms are back up against like they're supposed to be. I'm using perfectly strict form, and the machine feels very, very natural. There's no pressure on any of my joints at all. And so now I know at the next, I don't know, I feel like it's better for bulking, better for cutting, better for just tracking your progress and being more specific about what's working, what's not working. Because with dumbbells and with free bars, it's just so much more room for error, man.
Yeah, totally. I like the combination of both. I like the freedom to be able to work a joint at a specific angle and specific resistance profile. And I think, as always, history has so far shown that probably a blend of free weights and machines is probably the way to go. Have some kind of mixture in there is a way to go. I'm still a huge fan of basic free weight exercises. I bench press every chest workout. I incline barbell press every chest workout. I squat. I stiff leg deadlift.
Really cool.
Yeah. So I do those movements safely. Always done them in there. The problem with those exercises is people picking ones that aren't that don't fit their own body's biomechanics and ego lifting. Right. Sure. And progressing loads, moving to, I've got 2 plates, let's try 2.5, and they're doing 1 rep max on the bench press. That's not the way that they should be doing. They don't understand how to bridge, how to lock their lats in. There's a lot of technicalities to learning those lifts, but there's an important point about that as well, because you're getting lots of joint stabilizers getting stronger if you're doing those correctly. How to brace my lats, how to retract my shoulder blades, all of those things have to be done well to be able to bench press properly. And those other supporting synergistic muscle groups and supporting muscle groups, with my rotator cuff, for example, is all getting stronger because I'm doing that free weight. So if I was to move all to machines, then potentially some of those other stabilizing muscle groups are going to be a issue. But if you mix those things around, so for example, if I leg press rather than squat, I still need to have something that strengthens my lower back and my hip extension movements. I may still need an RDL or something in there that. Otherwise, my quads are getting really strong, but my lower back is nowhere near as strong in comparison. So, to my mind, blend some basic free weight movements, some cable movements, and some machines with good resistance profiles, and then you're getting the best of both worlds.
I love it. Cool. Yeah, and cables too. Kind of same idea. Awesome. Another question for you. What tell us about Premier Gym. What is this?
Okay. Yeah, so this is essentially, this is my full-time job, right? This is where I'm based day to day. So we've been open for 7.5 years now. It's myself and my wife own it, and it's we have 2 floors with about 100 stations of resistance equipment plus cardio room. We have a mixture of Cybex, Hoist, hammer strength, and a few other unique pieces in there. And
cool.
It's whilst it's not a hardcore bodybuilding gym, but it's geared very much for physique development, whatever level somebody's at. So if you want to come and train we've got a leg room here, a back room here. Yeah. So if you come in to train hamstrings, right, we have a lying, a kneeling, standing, and a seated hamstring curl. If you want to train calves, we've got standing, seated, and 45-degree calf raise. I've got 4 different leg presses, pendulum squats, hack squats, multiple squat racks, squat machines, whatever, right? Adductor machines, hip thrusts. If you want to train back here, I've got 4 different rows, 6 different lat pull downs. You'll find one that suits your body's biomechanics, and also so you're not having to wait to get on a piece. You know, if we've got 4 Smith machines here, you know, this is a 1,000-member club, right? So this is not like 5,000 members. So I've hand-picked equipment that I like because it's biomechanics that fits in with the usage patterns and so on. And then upstairs we've got, so my background prior to I took up bodybuilding, although I weight trained all my life. The bodybuilding part, certainly the competitive part, and I compete in men's physique, so that's my category, right? As opposed to open bodybuilding. My first part of my life was all related to martial arts from when I was 9 years old. Myself and my wife met when we were 15 or 16 doing martial arts. I continued that through into my 30s with Muay Thai, boxing, MMA. And my upstairs part of the studio, I have a full boxing ring. We have 15 station bags, huge area where we run boxing classes and hit and circuit classes and so on. So big studio, big cardio room with all the Stairmasters and so on. And then obviously a main gym area with pretty much everything you would think of. You know, if you want to do a chest workout, there's incline, decline, flat presses, Smith machines, Olympic bench presses, incline bench presses, multiple cable stations, pec fly, you know, whatever you want for chest, it's in there. I think one of those things when we opened, we've even got an outdoor gym, so kind of modeled a little bit on a mini Venice Beach outdoor gym called the Muscle Yard, and it's got a load of outdoor equipment, free weights. So when the occasional time we get a bit of sunshine outside, I've got speakers blasting out there, and people go and train out in, you know, outside, just outside the main gym as well in the training yard. We've got a car deadlift out there, which is Linda, my wife's dad's old car that when he passed away, we kind of didn't want to get rid of the car, and we decided it would live on as a deadlift, like a strongman deadlift car in the muscle yard. So it's great. You know, myself and my wife, we're here all the time. We're on reception. I coach out of here. I have a few competitors that I coach. And I also then use it as for people who want to come and see some of the hoist equipment. It means we can bring them here or one of the local site to me that I can show them the equipment. So it works nicely both ways for that side of things. So so that's my main base. That's my main full-time job as a gym owner these days, which obviously as a competitor is helpful. I can fit in my schedule, my workouts. I'm here already for morning cardio, for later doing weights, and I've got the hand-picked. You know, frequently there'll be a pallet arrived with another piece with something wrapped up outside, and Linda, my wife, will be saying, "What have you ordered now?" And I'm like, "I found this bicep curl. It was like this this great piece. I needed it for my Friday arm day." So maybe most of the gym is based around ordered all the equipment that I like to train on. I don't know, but it's everybody else seems to appreciate that. Very friendly environment. You know,
I love
it's the cheers bar thing, right? So when you walk in, we know everybody's name. I know what people train to. You know, because that old school gym owner thing where you can walk in and say to the gym owner, you know, somebody respected, had a lot of knowledge, and say, "Hey, Rob, can you just give me some advice on this? I'm having some problems with tendonitis in my elbows. I'm doing this. What do you recommend?" You know, we have a whole team of personal trainers here, but you don't have to do that. We've got myself and staff on. You can just go and get some general advice, right? So we're both in here doing that side of things, and so it's great, fantastic environment. I couldn't think of a better place to be in as a job to go to. And because, you know, the fitness equipment industry has changed now, so much of it is done online on Instagram and so on. So I have my office here. So in the quiet bits in the afternoons, I'll come and do the work that we need to in contact with clients and sending them information across. But, you know, what used to be going out and visiting clients all the time has become a lot less now. You know, people are familiar with it. So I can work out my office here and do the gym equipment side of business as well. So yeah, it's a great environment to train in, and I think probably the reason I've carried on competing for the length of time. This will be my 22nd competition. So I had no plans competing actually originally. I was actually out on at the URSA convention in maybe Orlando. 1 year. So the big URSA convention, which is usually out on the West Coast in the US in March every year, big fitness convention. Cybex, Hoist, whatever will be displaying all their new products there. And I'd gone out 1 year. I think maybe the year before I'd been out with Cybex and been out in Vegas, and I had seen this photograph poolside, and I was like, I felt I was out of shape. You know, I've been on the road selling equipment, drinking with clients, eating rubbish. You know, I had very young kids then. Wasn't really putting the effort in, and just saw this photo and went, what has happened? You know, I used to be 69 kilos ripped kickboxer, and kind of had this middle-aged spare tire at 39, 40. So I spent the next year getting in shape, and I've got the same group of guys by poolside where I had my sort of 34, 35-inch waist. The next year I've gone in like shredded on poolside, the little transformation over that 12 months, and just got myself in shape, sorted my diet out. And I went and trained at a local gym, and the owner there said, "Oh, are you competing in our show tomorrow?" I was like, "No, I'm just here on a business trip." And he went, "Man, you should compete. How old are you?" And I was like, 40, 44, I think I was at the time. "You should compete in the Masters. You'd like smash it." And I didn't. I was out there. I wasn't there that day, but I came home and said to my wife, saying, "You know what? It was always been on the bucket list to go and compete, and I think I'll go and have a go at this men's physique thing." It was fairly new. I knew Ryan Terry very well, and some of the guys doing that. And I said, "I'll just enter a show, go and have a go." So about 6 weeks later, did my first show. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Loved all the prep part of it, and that was it. I kind of got the bug, and then from there, I carried on competing in the through the amateurs. Eventually won the British Masters men's physique, and then won the Arnold Classic UK Masters men's physique, and then went over to Rome and did the European Masters competition. Won my pro card out there, so IFBB Pro card, which was a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, and then decided, I can't have won a pro card and not go and compete at it. So
What did
I
that
then
feel
went
like when you won your pro card, man? What did that feel like when you won your IFBB Pro card? Please
I
tell
can't
me.
even describe it. I can't even describe it. It was because it was something that was never really on the agenda, and something I never thought I would go and do. It was just that elite of the elite, and
Yeah.
you don't see yourself at that standard until the pictures come back and you see yourself in the lineup with the other best guys there in Europe or whatever. So yeah, it was just, and I wasn't doing it for an Instagram profile or whatever. I loved competing and I loved being better than last year and those things. But then what it did was give me this opportunity to go and compete at these big shows. So sort of, I
Cool.
actually famously did. I get ribbed for it a lot, but I did my sort of retirement speech on stage at the Arnold in front of 4,000 people, saying, "This was it, pinnacle of my competing career. I want to quit while I'm ahead now." I was at 50 years old. 50 years old. That's it. I'm done. I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. And that was really it. There was nothing bigger for Masters guys to go and do, except for coming over to the US and doing kind of US nationals or stuff like that. But the Arnold was the one to do it at. So so once I got it, I went, right, let's have a look at the pro circuit in the US. I was obviously knew all the famous shows, so we went out to Tampa last year and competed at the Tampa Pro, my first pro show, and came fourth there. So in the first call out, came fourth. Wasn't expected to do as well. And again, I've made that call saying, hey, if I do okay, I'll carry on while my body's feeling good and things aren't going on a downward slide. And did better than expected. The other thing is, well, I want to make those trips something for myself and my wife to go and enjoy. So we're picking places that are nice to go and travel to, right? So we look at the list and go, hey, where do we want to go and spend a week? So this year, I chose Chicago. I've got a beautiful apartment hired, an Airbnb near Lincoln Park. We're training at Quads Gym all week, the famous gym in Chicago that Cohen trained at, which is, if you ever have a look at Quads Gym, it's one of the top 10 in the US. So we'll train there all week. Zach, who's my coach, who's coming out there with me as well, he comes out to all my shows. He's been coaching me for the last 7 years. He's sort of best friend as well as my coach. He was based at the gym here, so he had his office here. And he coaches tons of pro men's physique guys. He's probably one of the elite men's physique coaches, Zach Fotheringham, right now. But he will look at me literally after every meal and make minor adjustments to my water intake, my food intake. I actually remember one year, it's somewhere on my Instagram profile. I wish I had it to pull up here, but we did a show and I came in a little bit flat. We pulled down really hard because I was looking quite muscular for the men's physique amateurs here. And the feedback from the judges was, you may be borderlining bodybuilding, here. You're a little too muscular for men's physique. So we went and competed in a different category they have over here called muscular men's physique that the amateurs have here. And all night, he knocked on my hotel bedroom door and fed me carbs every 2 hours. So all the way through the night, he came and knocked on the door, gave me another bag of heated up rice or rice cakes with honey on and whatever. And if you look at the photos of competing on Saturday and competing on Sunday, it looks like a year's worth of difference. One of them kind of 12-month transformation photos of how that carb up affected me. But he's bought me. If you have a look at say Zach Fotheringham's site, you'll see every single one of his guys comes in absolutely peeled. He pulls condition like nobody I know. You'll see, maybe you see that the recent one I just posted yesterday or today. I'm 3 weeks out and probably in better condition than most people will get on stage at in open categories, never mind at 52. And I've still got another couple of kilos to pull off to make the weight cap. So I will be skinless by the time I get there. I may not be the biggest guy,
For sure, man.
but they'll be lucky if anybody is close to the condition. There's only really one guy who won the Pro World Masters last year who I see kind of coming in the same condition that I do. So and that's how you think I've been working in a gym, coaching every course, trained with some top trainers since I was 16 years old. I still have a coach and I follow everything to the letter because if I was doing this at this point myself, I'd be cutting my food more than it is now. I'd be panicking, and I still need a bit more fat off my lower back. I'm still 2 kilos over the weight cap. I'd be doing too much cardio. I wouldn't be eating enough carbs. And Zach will, take that objective look at it while the head games are all getting messed with. You've got all this to come right in the last few weeks where you'll be questioning whether you're doing everything right. Am I having too much? Am I doing too little cardio? And you want to overdo things. Especially if it's been timed properly from the start, having somebody to take an objective view of what you're doing and take the reins while you're not making rational decisions at that point in your prep is invaluable.
So important. So important. Absolutely. Every single word that you just said. Love it, man. Thanks for that. That's so inspiring. That's exactly what goes through your head when you get closer and closer to stepping on stage. And I actually, so I'm coaching myself and I can totally relate to what you just said because like my tendency is to always do too much, right? So like I'm stepping on stage in 8 weeks from now. And I'm guest posing. So like, I don't even need to have glute striations, right? I'm going to be classic physique guest posing. And so my stage weight should probably be like around 184, 185. And I saw 187 a couple weeks ago. And so I've quit all cardio. I'm eating more protein. I'm eating more fat. Everything is up right now. And I'm probably going to try to gain weight for another week or two, and then probably just take one more cut. But better to be ahead of the ball than behind the ball, right? There's nothing worse than knowing that you got more weight to lose than what you would like to lose. So
if you empty the tank too far, you get that muscle glycogen down and get too depleted. Getting it back becomes near impossible, right? It can take week plus of surplus eating to try and pull that back in. So getting too flat, you do it, it's a fine line. Those things, you want that to be just below the wire, that body fat just chipping away and maintaining that good muscle glycogen so you can maintain your training intensity. The stuff that built the muscle needs to stay there in terms of strength and those things. So not getting too flat, having that balance. We're bodybuilding, we're not in a prisoner of war camp, just getting us rid of turning into skin and bones. Holding muscle tissue is the name of the game here. So it's how lean can I get without losing muscle. If that takes more time, it takes more time, but you can only go and lose fat at that certain rate then. Chris Aceto, you'll see the famous quotes going, how much cardio should I do? As little as possible. Do what's required to push your expenditure up there, but no more. We want to be in that anabolic environment all of the time. Central nervous systems needs to be recovered. You need to increase output. And one of the issues, it's become very good with all the trackers now, but using steps. One of the reasons it's important, it's not really about the steps, but it's about the activity. All the research suggests that as you get deeper and deeper into that calorie deficit, you start moving and doing less. You fidget less, you move, you get up less unconsciously because your body's fatigued. So whilst you'll start adding, your cardio has gone from 20 minutes to 30 minutes to 40 minutes, but you're doing less. So now you've just negated the effect of the extra 20 minutes of cardio you've done because you've sat around watching TV more. Right? But if I go and hit my 12,000 steps, I know I've kept a minimum of activity. Now my increase in, and the same thing with when I do have cardio in there, I'll keep a steady 120 to 130 beats per minute during the cardio, partly for cardiovascular health as well, and recovery between my sets. But it also means as you get fitter as the prep goes on, if I'm prepping for 12 to 16 weeks, if I'm getting fitter, what would be level 5 on the Stairmaster will no longer and I get lighter, my level 5 is no longer going to get my heart rate up to 120 beats a minute. It's no longer going to burn 800 calories an hour at that, because I'm lighter and I'm fitter. I'm now only burning 600 calories an hour because of those changes, right? So not only has my cardio got to progress from 20 to 30 to 40 minutes, say, I might have to go from level 5 to level 7 to level 9 just to maintain the same calorie expenditure that I did at the start when I was heavier and less fit. So that turning the screw becomes important whilst maintaining my output, keeping the steps there, and then as my body stalls. Typically throughout this prep, we will have a refeed or an off-plan meal. Zach doesn't give everybody off-plan meals. Sometimes it'll be clean refeeds. I cope with them very well. It doesn't send me, off binging. I have the same thing on it, but this week I've got 2 lower days now, but I'll be having a refeed with some high carbs on Saturday, and then we'll dig again for the week, and then refeed again on Saturday at the end of the week as I get more and more depleted, to stop me getting too flat and stop me losing training performance.
Yeah. Most of our listeners are keto carnivore, and so our refeeds look like usually 30% higher protein, usually 30% higher fat. Normally I like to drop the protein actually just a little bit. Lately, this is how I've been doing it, and then just like eating as much fat as I can possibly stomach until it tastes gross. And then if it tastes gross and I keep eating it, I know I'm gonna have a very unpleasant experience the next morning that'll tell me that I consumed too much fat. So
whilst my diet is very different, whilst my diet is very different, the principle still apply, isn't it? The principle still applies about that replenishing muscle glycogen, whether you're doing that from glucose conversion from fats, or however that's being done, and keeping sufficient protein intake to preserve lean muscle tissue. There's a really interesting piece in Lane Norton's one of Lane Norton's books that he shows a little a piece from a study showing in calorie deficit how much protein you require to maintain muscle tissue as you get older. So in different categories of 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, how that protein requirement gets increased as you get older to maintain muscle tissue in a calorie deficit. So that's an important part as well.
Kidding.
And of course that protein intake, again, may a little different with keto carnivore, but generally that protein intake in calorie deficit is going to have to be higher than it is during a calorie maintenance or surplus stage, where you've got some muscle sparing from your additional fats or whatever.
That's really good to know, man. That's really good to know, and that's why I love hosting this podcast, bro. Is because I seriously feel like I'm going to college every single day, and so now in my consultations moving forward, I'm going to make sure that that I factor that in too. And so, okay, as you're older, you have you have a requirement for more protein, even though your lean body mass is the same, huh? That's according to Lane Norton.
Yep. I think it's in his
That's cool. Wow.
It's in his competition prep book. It's quite an interesting way that he does that as well, that can fit with keto carnivore or the high carb.
I have his prep book right over there. I have his book right over there. It's on the shelf. It's a damn good book, man. It's a really good book.
So there's a little chart on the bottom of the pages on protein requirements. It's very good in that it can fit both diet formats. It's what I was saying about this journey, right? I can take this route to get the end result, or this route to get the end result. You could be doing push-pull legs. You could be doing high carb and low fat. You could be doing high fats and low carbs. As long as you're consistent with this thing, they're all taking you a different route to the same destination. But on that chart, you'll see he'll give, based on lean body mass, how much protein you require, not on body weight, but on lean body mass. But then you could be flipping your carb requirements, anything from like 18-20 either way, right? So I could be 80% fats and 20% carbs, or I could be the other way. That could be mostly fibrous carbs, or to the way that I do it, where I'm probably 70% carbs. So he kind of goes, hey, that's up to you. This is just energy intake, and what you tolerate best and what you feel best doing. Get that protein requirement set. Take the rest of your energy requirements from your fats and carbs, however you want to split it and however you perform best, and be consistent with it. But get that protein requirement correct based on lean body mass for whatever phase you're in, whether that be calorie deficit, maintenance, or calorie surplus.
I love it. Yeah, and then that I don't know. I think that's the only thing where all of Lane Norton's work, as much as I respect everything that he does, that the calorie tracking is one thing I just completely went out the window with a couple of years ago. I've just especially after going from a diet that was that had lots of carbohydrates in it to taking them out. It's just changed so much about my body hormonally that seriously nothing adds up anymore. And so I'll go back and forth between a calorie deficit on
Yeah,
prep, and as long as my carbs are minimum and I'm just tweaking
yeah,
fats
yeah,
and protein, that's kind of more how I do it. So sorry, I just want to address that because some of our listeners are
yeah,
probably like, "What calories?" Yeah.
yeah, yeah. What are
Yeah.
calories? Yeah, and
Uh,
right now, I couldn't tell you what calories, what carbs, what fat I'm on my diet. I follow the diet that my coach has set, and he purposely doesn't give me my macros. So I just know this is
good.
what's on meals one in terms of weight. This is meal two. This is meal three. Prepping for contest. I don't.
Wow.
I follow it to the letter. So if that's 100 grams of green vegetables on that meal, it's not 105 grams. It's 100 grams on that meal, and I prep and follow that to the letter.
Wow. Dude,
So
I totally get why your coach does it that way too. So all my clients know what their macros are if we're tracking macros. Most of them are. Some of them, they don't need to track macros for what they're trying to
but
accomplish. But
li-
most of them are tracking
like
macros. They all know it, but they don't know their calories, man, because it messes with your head. It really, really
so so
messes with your
so
head on prep.
so
Sorry,
my
go ahead.
any lifestyle clients I have and my general recommendations, I have the same thing. Like, I might have one of the girls I go, and I want you hitting 150 grams of protein per day, and and what amount of fat and whatever amount of carbohydrate per day, and then not being obsessed around the calories. But for comp prep, if I want to get somebody absolutely shredded, then the fixed diet plan versus the flexible diet plan, in my experience, in Zach's experience, works, leaves no room for error. I remember there was an interesting conversation on, I think it was on the with Phil Abiad and Dr. Mike Israel, where they talk about this, and he's going, "How can you be so precise with all your scientific knowledge on training that you quote your studies, and you're eating protein bars on your diet and changing your calories around and all those things?" But I'm thinking and listening to this, but going, yeah, and that's maybe one of the reasons that you're not ever going to be elite as a bodybuilder, because I don't know any top guys who get in that kind of condition, genetics, drugs, everything else aside, that doesn't follow that kind of disciplined diet to get to that point. I've done, prior to working with Zach, I've done a
Yeah.
flexible diet where I had X amount of protein, X amount of carbs, X amount of fat, adjusted those as I've gone through. But the temptation to go and put something in as you get deeper into prep and the mind games kick in and your appetite and satiety and all of those things are starting to be affected, then you're the little devil on your shoulder is telling
Yeah.
you one thing, going, "Oh, hey, this will taste really nice to go and do this." But of course, your digestive system, inflammation, your gut microbiome, all those that are being affected by that. And if something changes, you go, "Oh, what the hell was that set it off?" I don't know, because I wasn't consistent enough with it. So I have variety. So through my protein sources, I'll have a mixture of whole eggs, egg whites, whey protein, chicken, lean beef. So I have lean beef every day. For example, that's my meal number 5 on my workout, on my diet plan.
What's up, everybody? Coach Colt. We feature an LISS on every single podcast. Do not worry, it doesn't stand for low intensity, steady state cardio. But you probably already knew that, because if you know me, you know that I hate cardio. Here, LISS is a play on words. It stands for Listener Inspiring Success Story. Every week, we feature a big win from someone within the carnivore community to keep us all encouraged, learning, and growing together with this primal way of eating. This week's LISS is from Levi Jensen from Kentucky. He's a few days into his first week working with Rich and myself. Ladies and gentlemen, Levi Jensen.
So I've been a carnivore off and on for probably about 2 months now. I was originally a person who followed animal-based, which is pretty much the same as carnivore, but you add carbs from honey, maple syrup, and fruit. But I've been a strict carnivore for about 2 weeks now. And I started carnivore because I was listening to Dr. Anthony Chafee, shout out to him, and he kept talking about how he has been carnivore and his energy levels are through the roof, that he could just keep running and exercising and not getting tired. And I was like, well, I want to experience that. Plus, I love pushing the envelope with different things and not doing the normal thing. And so I started to give it a try, and I started to see amazing results. Some of my favorite things about it is probably the brain fog has gone away for me. It's helped me with my depression and anxiety. My energy levels are through the roof. They don't even stay the same, which would be better than highs and lows. They're just completely through the roof. And for the first time in a very, very, very long time, I have gotten up without feeling tired or groggy or anything like that.
Levi, thanks a lot for submitting your success story, man. Listeners, if you are a carnivore with an inspiring success story, contact my co-host Rich or myself, and we will get your message out where people need to hear this. The carnivore community is growing across the globe, and the more that we all share what's working for us, the more we will continue to learn and grow from each other. Now, back to the show. We were kind of heading this direction, and so I wanted to kind of close with this, but 52 is older than what most would consider to be optimal for bodybuilding and like for any kind of sports, really. So is that something that you agree with or not?
Yeah, I've surprised myself. I expected over the last couple of years to not make improvements, to maybe finding it a little bit harder getting the fat off, a little harder holding muscle tissue, a little harder around injuries, and the opposite has been true. So each year I've gone and prepped. I've been better than the previous year. So I've just surprised myself for doing it. There's obviously guys out there that have done that. I think one of the things is I've got quite a whilst I've trained all my life, I've only been competing since I was 44. I'm 52 now, so I haven't had a long competitive career if you think about that. So only really over 8 years. And where you've got guys who've been competing over 15. It's not like I've been competing since I was in my 20s. Right, so there's that element to it. 20 shows over
certainly
8
longer
years.
than I've been competing.
Yeah, so I'll only do a couple of shows a year. I'm not doing like show after show after show, so it's not so hard on my body. All of those side of things. I'm very scientific and careful with how I train, how I recover. So, for example, I have sports massage therapy twice per week, every week, all soft tissue work and that type of stuff. That's been a huge element to doing it. In terms of my supplements intake, everything from turmeric to omega-3s to all the kind of inflammatory stuff that I'll have in my diet to maintain joint health. So all of those things have been a key bit. Correct training program, not overtraining, sufficient rest and recovery, diet, supplementation, all to support being able to train, staying hydrated well. So, the type of training, I'm not chasing logbook numbers. I find, that's definitely something as I've got older. I'm squatting less, bench pressing less than I did when I was younger, but I've got more muscle mass because I found other ways to go and stress that muscle. And chasing logbook numbers for me at my age, you can't continually get stronger and stronger and stronger forever. You need to go and find some other routes before your joints or you tear something or whatever. So I did that in my younger years, built up to good base strength, and then I found other ways, whether it's pre-exhaustion, rest periods, tempo, set extenders, that are causing some stimulus other than just the progressive overload. I think progressive overload is important for your joints, tendons, muscles, especially early years of training. But once you've built that strength base, the anecdotal evidence suggests that you're probably not going to keep going and going and going. Look at most top bodybuilders, they probably got to their top leg press or their top squat by their mid-20s and never went any heavier than that, even though their quads got 3 inches bigger than they were when they were 25 by the time they were 35. The other thing is I have a look at, inspired by guys like Dexter Jackson and people who are, competing into their 50s with incredible physique. So it's been done. I kind of, think that. The other thing is, I guess for a lot of guys at my age are not able to get that condition. So it almost gives me a bit of an advantage to some extent that I'm able to get that kind of condition in my 50s competing as a masters. Whilst gaining muscle tissue has been a hard slog. It's maybe a kilo a year over that time period I've averaged out. So it's slow steady progress, but the but being able to get conditioners given me an advantage of this. I don't plan to go and do it forever. You know, this last couple of years, just wanted to have a bit of a run on that US Pro circuit. We'll maybe come out, get out to New York next year. That's on the bucket list. We haven't been out there yet, so I'll pick some nice cities. Nearly all the Masters shows are out in the US. There aren't any big European ones. The other one option I might have a look at next year, if it comes back over to Europe, is the Masters Olympia. When it came up, the previous one that had the men's physique, they didn't have any. I hadn't done any pro shows, so I didn't qualify for it. Having a couple of good pro show performances on my resume now, if that comes up next year, that might be the swan song, the final call before I just concentrate on running the gym and coaching other people and things like that. But for right now, I'm enjoying the journey of the prep, the testing things out. You know, having done it myself, it gives you the credibility with the clients, and and as a gym owner and so on, I'm in a great environment. I'm not working a 12-hour shift as a like my daughter's a midwife. She'll come in from a 12-hour shift. I couldn't be doing cardio in the morning and back for weight training after that on that kind of schedule. I'm at the gym with every piece of kit I want to. I can train after 3 meals and have another 3 meals afterwards. When I trained today before this podcast, I had my post-workout meal, and then I set my time and slept for 45 minutes, and I do that every time as a schedule, right? So before I train, I'll have my it's a Dorian Yates thing, right, that I learned from a seminar with him. So I set my schedule at 12 o'clock. I'll have my lunch. Following my lunch, I'll have a look at training notes, what my plan is for the day, what I'm training. I'll usually go and watch some kind of cool training video. So my phone is off at this point. I'll go and watch Jay or Branch or somebody on one of those MCV videos, music turned up in my office, crank it. My training partner will arrive. We'll go down, have a pre-workout, quick chat for the day. We'll talk through what we're going to do. And then when we train, there's no outside conversation except for pushing us. We don't chat about what the kids are doing, what we're doing Saturday night, nothing. People who've come and trained with us are like, start talking. I'm like, well, stop. The only thing I want to hear out of you is, come on, Rob, do 2 more or counting reps. That conversation is when we finish. So then I go to the gym, I change the playlist. So I have different playlists for whatever day. If we're doing Monday, which is chest and calves, that will be Metallica. So that goes on so everybody knows at 1:30 on Monday, right? It's starting with Enter Sandman, and that's my intro track as I load up the bench press. So
good choice.
Yeah, right. So today's shoulders is Lincoln Park today. So Lincoln Park is shoulder day. So I have the same training kit, the same process. Get hyped up, finish training, post workout meal, have a sleep for 45 minutes, and then get them, whether I'll have some clients through the evening, do some additional admin, whatever. So I have a process that sets me up. Now, most people don't have that, that ability to be able to come and do that. Now, I'm in here from 6 o'clock in the morning. I might be here at 10 o'clock at night, but I've got my little man cave here that I can go and escape to, have a sleep, watch my videos, do my work in between the schedule. So whilst I'm in that great environment to be able to do this, it sets me up well to have at least less stressful prep than a lot of people will be doing, having to get up at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning to do their cardio and then go for a full day at work, and then maybe not be quite hydrated like they need to, then going to a crowded gym after work and doing their session. I really feel for the guys doing that, because that is very tough in the later stages of prep. So but this maybe next year, and then we're probably going to call it a day and do it there. So hopefully in 3 weeks we're going for top slot. Yeah. So hopefully I can get at least a pro win, a Masters Pro win, once before I hang it up.
Let's go, man. Did you get like an opportunity to post for 60 minutes to whatever music you want to?
No. So
it's not.
So it was in men's physique. You don't get your own posing music.
Wow, no free posing, huh?
You do, yeah. You do get a posing routine, but it's not like a done in time with music. So you get a 45-second block. So in the IFBB men's physique pro, you all come out individually first. So everybody, let's say there's 15 masters in my category, you'll all come out individually and come out center stage and do your 45-second free routine. There's some criteria in that. So the poses are different from classic and so on to our men's physique poses. But you've got some freedom to do those. So you come up and do showing your best best shots, best poses, but there'll be some generic whatever it is music on there, right? And then you come off, and then you all come on for your mandatory poses all together. They'll turn you front and back, then they'll move you all off, and they'll pull on the first call out, that what they think is going to be the top 6, and they'll move you around positions. Then they'll do the second call out, third call out, whatever. So very similar. So it's just that, and the only thing we don't have in it that is you don't have that artistic licensing quite the same way. I'd love to be going out and doing like a 1991 style Leela Barda routine.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm playing my guitar on stage and singing at my next posing routine. So that's, I don't know. I guess if there's going to be one thing that would hold me back from, because I'm torn between going towards WNBF and IFBB for my pro card. It's like, man, WNBF, like it's such a cool organization, man. Like you can really have a lot of freedom with your posing and everything. And I'm a musician too, man. So I don't know if I was like, if I did get my IFBB Pro card, I feel like I'd be scratching my head like, hey, like, can someone change the music or something? Like, I'm not feeling this song. Come on, let's get some posing.
Yeah. I think there's a line between figuring which organization suits your physique criteria best. When I was competing in the amateurs, the amateur organization here, I was a little bit too muscular for it. And then the first time I went and saw NPC shows and IFBB, I went, shit, okay, that's what I want to look like. That's the aspirational physique for me. It was whereas the kind of the slim down sort of beach body look that they had in the amateurs wasn't really my thing, and I was constantly fighting to be trimmed down enough for that. So I think find an organization where, for me there's the artistic thing to it, but as much as anything, it was finding an organization where you've got the right look, your natural attributes fit well with the guys that are winning the top spots in there. And I had that white men's physique look, the kind of rounded shoulders and small waist and all that kind of stuff. But if I needed massive hamstrings and great big triceps, in a 212 class, I probably wouldn't do very well. So I picked the category based on my genetics as well, where I think I can be most successful.
Wow, interesting. What's GBO and how is that different than IFBB? Because my co-host Richard Smith, he's a GBO pro. What do they look for in the difference in their because like the federations here that we have in the US, it's like some of them value symmetry more, some of them value muscularity more, some of them value conditioning more, posing, stage presence, everything. Right?
Varies a bit from the UK to US. I think the first thing is in worldwide, the NPC, which is the amateur division of the IFBB, and then the IFBB, which is the pro division. That's the elite of the elite, right? That's the guys that competing at the Mr. Olympia. You have to be IFBB, right? So to be competing there. So somebody who has aspirations to do that, to compete at the Mr. Olympia, wants the most credible. Reason I went to the IFBB. The IFBB Pro card is the most respected pro card out there. So if you're going to go, I want, there's a ton of organizations that have a pro card. That you win one amateur show and then you compete in the evening in the pro class and you win your pro card, and it's like so the standard to get to IP pro card is very, very well respected, and to compete in those big shows. Outside of that, I see more of the other shows not really being pro shows, right? To me, I see those being the amateur shows, and then it's finding the ones that you like, the style, the criteria, and so on. GBO here is one of the organizations we have, IFBA, WNBF, so natural and tested organizations, UK DBFA, which is a very good, in the UK, the very best natural organization, tested one with incredible athletes. But I had a client went out to compete in LA last year in the WNBF in bikini. She did very well over there. I think it's just
what year was she here?
That was whenever it was at LA. So that was 2 years ago, not last year, year before. She went out to whenever it was LA.
I was gonna say I competed at that show that you're describing, but it was in 2019. So she and I almost competed at the same show. That's wild.
Yeah. She just did the Arnold UK, and then she went, which was IFBB, and then she went across to WNBF because she's a sort of natural. But She was a little bit. Although she's natural, she's very muscular. So she was maybe for bikini class a little borderline muscular, shoulders and back and so on. But yeah. So I think it's a case of you go look at the shows and you see who's winning those categories, what the judges are looking for, and who they're putting in the top 3 slots, and go, where do I fit? If you looked at all of, say 5 different organizations there and said in your class, and then said, what do the top 3 guys winning there look like? Where do I fit best in across those organizations? And what do you like about them as well, in terms of posing style and the feel when you go to those shows. We have PCA here, which is another big organization who do very, very well run shows, great lighting, great venues, great setup. Two Bros, the promoter here, who does the NPC IFBB shows, which is the gateway into the sort of high level pro cards, which is the route I went because I wanted to go and compete at the Europeans and go for pro card. So I think, find in amateurs, find the organization. I think, the only reason you want to be chasing a pro card is not the status, it's because you want to compete as a pro. You want to go on the pro circuit and compete with the best in the world in that pro category. And I think that has changed. People are trying to get IFBB or whatever pro status to say such and such pro for their Instagram profile, for their sponsors, for their followers, all those things. And to me, that's not the right way. To me, the reason you want to get a pro card is because you want to compete on the pro circuit. That's what it should be there for. So,
wow, very, very good advice. We are coming up on the end of the hour. End of the hour, my friend. I totally respect your time and don't want to take any more of it from you. What platforms are you most active on, and where can people go to follow you in your journey, especially over these next 3 weeks? Because this is going to be exciting. I'm following, that's for sure.
All on Instagram. So everything is. I'm a bit of a dinosaur, but everything is on Instagram. So my Rob Thurston IFBB Pro on Instagram is the best place for following me, for messages. The whole journey is going on there, so you'll see content on there on my training, my diet, the competition prep. You'll see me a ton on there. So Rob Thurston IFBB Pro on Instagram. That's the best place to go and see everything I'm doing.
Good stuff. It has been an absolute pleasure, Rob. Thank you so very much for your time, and especially with the 45 minutes of damn audio issues that we had. But man, we made it happen because I really wanted this talk to be a real thing. And here we go, man. So we got it recorded. Good stuff. Thank you so very much again. Best of luck to you on the rest of your prep, and I know you're going to win.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And on that note, that's all we got for this week, everybody. So thanks a lot for listening, and make sure to let us know what you thought. Feel free to shoot Rich or myself an email that is admin@supersetyourlife.com or rich@theketopro.com, my co-host. You can send either of us a DM on Instagram that is @ColtMilton or @RichardAnthonySmith. Richard and I both offer private one-on-one consultations as well as monthly coaching services for those who are serious about getting some real results. First call, if you haven't booked it with either of us, is always free. We'd love to talk to you for 10 or 15 minutes and see what you're trying to accomplish. Thanks to everyone who's been subscribed and listening since the beginning, and for those who have recently joined, your ratings, your reviews, your shares on this show got us to where we're at. Thank you so very much, and God bless you. So that's all that we have to say until next week. Until then, check out Richard's Keto Pro podcast. Richard and his guests teach how to improve their health and well-being using a ketogenic diet. Like this show, Richard frequently features popular guests such as Dr. Anthony Chafee, Dr. Jen Irwin, and many, many others. Coach Colt's Workout Motivation Podcast. This is my other show, actually. It's called the SupersetYourLife.com podcast. If you haven't checked out that one, please go ahead. It's a podcast that I specifically record twice a week to listen to while you work out. We regularly interview professional bodybuilders, professional judges, top nutritionists, leadership experts, stand-up comedians, and top athletes from SupersetYourLife.com. We keep the focus on health-first bodybuilding, faith, and family, and I publish every Monday and every Friday. See you over there if you need some motivation. Share this with a friend if you found it helpful. We'll catch you next week on session number 63. Spoiler alert, it's going to be with Richard. Until then, say this with me: eat like a lion, live like a lion. Love you guys and have a great week until then.